This is a short presentation on how to present a poem or a novel or author, in particular for the domandone during the state exam, when you will be presented with an image or phrase and then are expected to link this prompt to something you studied in various subjects. First of all, stop and think. Take a moment to organize your thoughts and look carefully at the image or phrase. Consider the most obvious connection. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Then, think about how you can connect this idea to other subjects. Before you start giving specific details about a certain subject, identify what you see. This is a general impression of the image, not a detailed description like you do in PET or FIRST exams. A good way to start is, this picture shows. WWWW. Remember the W words? Who, what, when, where, why, which. This information will help put the source in context before you analyze it and discuss it. Say what you are going to discuss. This means the title and what it is. A novel, a poem, a collection of poems. Of course, you should say who the author is with a complete name. Not Wilde, but Oscar Wilde. Then you can simply use the author's last name, Wilde. Then, importantly, give historical context. Say when it was written, with the dates if you know them, but perhaps more importantly, what was happening in the world at the time the book or poem was written. Was it written in reaction to something or as a result of something? For example, 1984 was written right after World War II. For the poems of Wordsworth and the war poets John McCrae and Wilfred Owen, learn both the title of the poem and the first line of the poem. For Daffodils, I recommend you also learn the last stanza. Introduce the poem with the WWW information. What is the message or theme of the poem? Link this to the prompt you have been given. Very briefly, explain the plot or what happens in the poem. Don't memorize it line by line, but give the general idea of the story or message. For example, The Rainbow is about the wonder and emotion that Wordsworth feels whenever he sees a rainbow. It made him happy when he was a child, and also now that he is an adult. And he hopes that this sense of wonder and awe at the beauty of nature will continue for all of his life. He reflects that children, in their innocent wonder at beautiful things and the miracle of nature, have much to teach adults, and this is in the line, "The child is father of the man." Wordsworth ends the poem saying that he hopes that every day of his life will include the beauty of nature for him to contemplate. Then, do a quick technical analysis of the poem. Say how long it is, how many stanzas it is, how many lines per stanza, and the rhyme scheme. For example, Daffodils is a short poem of 4 stanzas. Each stanza is 4 lines long, and there is an alternating rhyme scheme, A, B, etc. And then, give some typical elements of the period that are specific to that poem and give examples. For Wordsworth, discuss elements of romanticism in the poem. For the war poets, contrast their poems, which discuss the horrors of war, with previous war poetry, which was generally about the glory of fighting for your country, and give examples in the poem about the horrors of war. To sum up, you can mention some elements in the poem that are typical of the author and give examples. For Wordsworth, this means simple language, a short poem, the topic is about life in the country or nature, and the use of imagination. If you're going to discuss a book or a short story, start with the reason for your connection and introduce your source with the W information. This photo shows a very strict teacher, and it reminds me of Professor Gradgrind in the novel Hard Times by Victorian author Charles Dickens. It was written as a critique of the authoritarian teaching styles of the time, etc. Give the genre and the essential plot of the novel, or the excerpt we've studied in the case of Hard Times. Give some basic information about the author. If you are discussing a dystopian novel, explain some typical elements of the dystopian literature genre and give examples from the book. Explain some typical characteristics of the author that are present in the book. For example, with Dickens, most of his stories are autobiographical to some extent and make social commentary or criticism. Of course, explain how this is portrayed in the novel. So, I hope that gives you some guidelines on how to present a literary source in an exam setting. Good luck, everybody.